Good evening. Hello, everybody. There's no business like show business. There's no business I know. I'm turning on the comments here. We do have Cal Garrison here, but she's having some mic difficulties, so it's okay. We're going to ride it out until Cal can join us, okay? She's trying to figure it out. Otherwise, you would just be looking at her beautiful face, and you wouldn't be able to hear any of her wisdom that she has to share, but I didn't want to leave you all waiting, okay? You're here for the LOLs. All right, I'm down for that. You know, always good to have some laughs, Jake, okay? But I happened to go on Instagram and saw Cal's story. Awesome. Okay. You didn't miss it. Good, Rhonda. Yeah, we're just going to let Cal catch up. Okay. She was backstage here and her mic is muted somewhere on her system. So yeah, it's great. I know. I'm always happy to have Cal on, and thank you to all of you who have showed up. I'm going to go ahead and just get this going and just kind of get some drop in until we see Cal pop up here. I'm sure she will. She's probably just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. She kept coming up as muted, so we have to get her sound figured out, and I'm sure she's got people where she's at helping her with that. But you know what? This is live. This is how live goes. It's always unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen, and you just got to fly by the seat of your pants. And I know for me that I really felt the changing of the nodes today. Did any of you really feel the changing of the nodes? It just seems like there's been a real energy shift already. And it makes sense because I was thinking about it, you know, we've had Taurus in the North Node, right? And then we've had, in the South Node, we've had Scorpio. And now we got Libra in the South Node, and we have Aries in that North Node. And so that air feeds that fire. And I know for me today, right off the bat, I just noticed a big shift, feeling a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yes, okay, I see you guys are all feeling it too. You couldn't sleep because of it. Yeah, that's what I noticed. It's like just an amplification of the energy, right? It just felt like just chomping at the bit, and things have been very interesting today. So I think we're in for some interesting times. I'm going to go ahead and give a little background on the astrology while we wait for Cal to get in. And, you know, if Cal is running a little behind, that's okay. You know, I can always dive in and give us a collective read. We can fill up the time. I wonder if it's something astrological. I've lost my voice. I've been muted too. Oh, I don't know. I'll tell you, it was one hell of a journey getting up to this point today, though. It's been one thing after another, you know. Oh, yep. We had the Cancer new moon yesterday. Absolutely. I'm personally ready for this energy myself, even though it might be like a little bumpy, like leaning into it, right? After we had kind of more of that real, I think it was like sludgy energy. I mean, I got really strong air and fire. In fact, pretty much even Aries and Libra. I got 5 planet placement in Libra, all in the first house of Aries. And then I have my Aries in Chiron, and that's in the house of Libra. So it's just like pretty much run the energy in tandem. So I'm actually excited to get to this energy because I haven't really cared being in the whole earthy, watery energy. It's just felt sludgy to me. So I've definitely felt like an infusion of energy, things picking up. And I think we're just going to continue to have a real amplification of the energy as it goes on because there's so much going on. So while we give Cal a little grace, yeah, it totally feels swampy, huh, Inez? That's what it's always like for me. It's kind of like moving through mud. I'm just like, ugh, I'm so ready. You know, I'm ready to just kind of get things going. I'm ready for the transformation. I'm ready to feel that fire again. So we're going to go ahead and just like dive into a little briefer of what's going on with the astrology right now. Just in terms of leading up to this, while we let Cal have that grace to kind of figure that out, because that's always stressful when You know, you're supposed to go live and then something malfunctions technically. So we'll just give her some room, some space to do that, and I can hold it down. I'm used to this. So, you know, we have also a lot going on, right? There's so much going on, and I keep getting in the downloads lately that fall is going to be a really big time when everything pops off for us, because that's when we'll be coming out of eclipse season. Let's not forget, we're still in eclipse season. So there's a lot that we can't see right now. As much as the energy is going to start moving, there's still a lot that's unknown. We're also in a major super moon season, okay? We had a super moon that got kicked off on July 3rd in the sign of Capricorn. And then we got another super moon that's coming up on the 1st. That's going to be in Aquarius. Then we got another super moon coming up, a blue moon on the 31st. That's going to be in Pisces. And then finally, to wrap it all up, we got the man of the hour, the emperor. Aries is going to close up that super moon cycle on September 29th. So that'll be huge, because we also have the eclipse season, you know, ushering out on October 14th. So it's like, once we hit that point where we get through all the super moons and we get through eclipse season, we're really going to have like so much light's been shined on, you know, what's been, you know, in the root cellar, that we're really going to have a lay of the land. We're going to know where we're going. We're going to know, you know, where to set our sights. And there's just going to be a lot of movement. There is so much positivity coming in, even amongst the challenging aspects, though. So I hope you're all really looking forward to, you know, what's around the bend. I think it's a great time for just sort of like setting your sights and getting your vision really honed in. How do you want to direct your energy? What do you want to create for yourself? Adding a little fuel to that fire, really getting in the elbow grease. Yes, Saturn's retrograde too. We got a lot going on, you know. Right here we got Ace of Swords, Umabel. I'm working with the angel deck because like that energy has been very front and center. It says affinity and friendship. Obtain the friendship of anyone. God above all names elevated. So when we're looking at this Ace of Swords, you know, I think it's really about us aligning ourselves with friends in high places, you know, aligning ourselves with our spirit team at this time, aligning ourselves with the angels, and whatever you have as your guide. Oh, here she is. Let's see. Oh, please. Here we go.
Can you hear
Yay! Yes.
this? Are you sure you can?
Yeah.
You can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Shannon, don't get pissed off at me for crying.
I'm not at all.
I'm a Virgo. What do you think? I didn't have my dime ready? For fuck's sake. Pardon my French. This is not my forte. Okay. And I'm sorry. But I'm such a little baby. Shannon was yelling at me.
No, I wasn't.
Shannon was yelling at me. Okay,
I'm such a brute. I'm such a taskmaster.
No, you are. You're something else. And this is because this is what you were saying, and it's so bizarre because I have to write this. All I do is write. Okay, so I had to write this article today, and I had to sort of get the ball rolling. Writing articles is like pushing an elephant up a hill. So anyhow, I had to get the ball rolling for this article that I write for the Sedona Journal of Emergence. Right, I do an article, and anyhow, the thing I had to get the ball rolling with today was the article for Libra.
Yes.
And so I can hear you just fine, but she can't hear me. And I'm listening to her say, oh, she's got 50 planets in Libra in the first house. And you've got Aries rising.
I do? Right? No, I have Libra rising.
Oh, shit. Okay, wait a minute. But okay, this is what I mean. All that Libra in the first house is owned and operated by Aries.
I know.
Okay. So So what comes? You don't come across as a Libra.
I know I don't.
You're more of a friggin' Aries.
I agree with that. I think I got a lot more fire, plus with just my Sagittarius placements too. I mean, I already had my Sagittarius moon, you know, in my natal, but in my progressed, I'm Sagittarius sun now. I've always related more to fire. But I will say, when I was younger, when I was a little girl, I was so Libra. I was. I was so like about keeping the peace, and I was really like kind of almost shy. Nobody would believe it. You know, nobody believes it when I tell them that. But
yeah.
obviously, I'm out of that energy. I'm all fire these days. But I welcome it, and we're so glad that you're here. It's always wonderful to have you.
I was like afraid. I said, "Holy shit, she's gonna kill me."
No.
She's gonna put a contract
No.
out. I was anyhow.
Never. No. You know what? You know what? It's show business, man. This is what happens with lives. And look, we got Angela here. She says Cal is comedic gold. All right. So they love you, baby. Everything's okay. Everybody was happy to wait for you. We're just glad we can hear you now, okay? Because you have so much wisdom to share. I was just kind of like killing some time, and it was interesting because I was just sort of like giving a backdrop and just talking about just the bare bones basics, you know, the fact that we're in eclipse season, the fact that we got Saturn, you know, retrograde, the fact that Venus is going retrograde in Leo at the end of this week, actually. And then we also got the 4 super moons. We're leading up to that super moon in Aquarius. We got a blue moon in August on the 31st in the sign of Pisces. And then Aries is going to wrap up that super moon cycle on the 29th in September. And then we come out of eclipse season October 14th. So there's a lot going on, man. And then we got, you know, this action, the changing of the nodes of destiny. So I just pulled out one card. Oh, I love it.
Which one is
I'm working with the angel deck because the angels seem to be front and center. I really have been noticing that it's like, it feels like lately the ethers are really wanting to be pulled down and like rooted in material reality. And the first card that came out was the Ace of Swords. And it was very much all about like, make friends in high places. Sort of like, I feel like spirit is sort of like open invitation at this time where it's like, help us help you. You know, I feel like that's really the vibe in the collective now with spirit, where it's like the more that you all can just like get out of your own way and kind of like let go and let these towers fall, just accept the truth for what it is and don't resist it, the more we can come in and help you. And I love it because right here we got the star.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, she's great.
And isn't that beautiful? It so reminds me of the nodes, right? And these are cool cards because they're tarot cards, they're angel tarot, but he has like additional meanings on the bottoms of the cards, and it says clemency and equilibrium. And I love it.
I got my cards out too. Okay.
So. Oh, I love it. Yes. Yes. I love that you're going to bring in your cards too, please.
Do the little magic thing. Okay. Hoochie boochie. Let's see what they have to say.
Oh, yes. I love it. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so here we go. And the whole business with the nodes shifting, they shift. Everything is sort of functions in harmonics. Okay, so the nodes are going to shift signs every 18 to 19 years. It's 18.6 years. Every 18.6 years, the nodes return to the same place that they were at 18 years prior. Okay, and the nodes will stay in one sign for about 18 months. Okay, so everything, I love astrology because everything functions in fractals of everything else. And so the whole is always being reflected in the smaller changes that we go through. But this business of the nodes is also, or this business of the nodes changing signs it's 18.6 to 19 years. Sometimes it's 20 years. But the patterns of the moon's nodes are what form the foundation for everything in Mayan astrology. Okay, and what the Sumerians referred to as the memnotic cycle comes out of the fact that they were observing what was going on with the moon. All right, and the moon's nodes are basically, if you picture the Earth is spinning around the sun, and you picture that while it's spinning around the sun, the moon is spinning around the Earth. Okay, so there's this funny little spherical thing going on, and everything's orbiting around itself. But the nodes are defined, okay, as the moon spins around the Earth. There are points along the way where, not everything is happening in the same plane. In astrology, there's something that's known as declination. So every orbit has a different angle to itself. And in fact, the Earth's going to orbit around the sun, and the sun's orbiting around a larger body, or the galactic center. So as the plane of the sun's passage through space is not necessarily the same as the Earth's plane as it passes through space, and the same with the moon. So basically, the moon's nodes are determined by what happens that when the orbit of the moon rises up over or descends below the plane of the ecliptic, which is the path of the sun. And that, the nodes go in reverse. So for instance, the sun is proceeding through every sign. It never goes retrograde. It's always in forward motion. The moon is in the same thing. Every other planet goes retrograde for periods of time, and there's a whole reason for that. But the moons the moons go backwards all of the time. The moon's nodes go backwards all of the time. And they regress backwards at about 3 seconds of arc a day.
Wow.
So it takes 20 years for them to go once around the zodiac or through each sign. And what just happened to us is the nodes moved up. The north node was in Taurus. The south node was in Scorpio. And what happened is on July 7th is that the north node backed into the last degree of Aries, and the south node backed into the last degree of Libra. So what this is, and I finally figured it out because, I'm just like an astrological nerd. All I do is think about this stuff. The zeitgeist. Do you understand do you know the definition of the zeitgeist? Okay, shifts every time the moon's nodes change. The reason for that, you want to know why? The moon rules the general public. Okay, and we say, oh, it's female, it's this and that, it's that and this, and blah, blah, blah. And it is all those things, but one of the things that does rule is all mankind. So this ocean of consciousness that is made up of everything that every single one of us is thinking and feeling all at the same time forms this zeitgeist of energy, which is basically where is the mass consciousness vibrating at this point, and what will be up with it for the next 18 months. So the shift backward into Aries from Taurus and into Libra from Scorpio is, it's real hard to kind of, for me, to pin it down. But I'm always thinking of, okay, we're at the tail end of the Kali Yuga. And it's quite obvious. I'm sorry I'm going on and on about this.
No, please. That's why we have you on, because we want to receive the wisdom, man.
So anyhow, what's going on is this shift. I don't know really how to put it. I'm trying to think. Okay, so it's the backward motion of the nodes is bringing us to a point where by the time, okay, the north node backs all the way up to the Aries point.
Mm-hmm.
Have we talked about the Aries point before?
We did, but it would always be good to have a refresher, because I'm sure we have a lot of new people here at Broad Coven. So
oh, that's great. I'm glad they didn't. I was like, oh, what's going to happen? What's she going to do? Anyhow.
You never know, Cal.
So the Aries, no, I know. I'm surprised you didn't get your burlesque outfit out and pop that on. Does everybody
Anything's
know?
possible.
Okay. So the Aries point, okay, is the alpha omega point of the whole entire zodiac.
You ever request to get a little closer to your mic, because Grace wants to be able to hear you a little better.
Oh, really? What do I have to do?
I think you're fine. You're fine. You just came closer. That's fine.
Okay. So the Aries point is this. It's the 0 point field between the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aries. All right. Mm-hmm. So, and in that space, it's kind of like what happens when you put in the clutch and the car goes into neutral. Okay. And in that 0 point field, absolutely anything can happen. And the other thing about the Aries point is it rules all of humanity. It does not have an individual effect. When anybody hits the Aries point, it's kind of like the 100th monkey wakes up. Okay. So did you guys know about the 100th monkey? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what happens is that the zeitgeist of the time is going to have an enormous impact on the consciousness of all of mankind. Well, by the time the North Node that just entered Aries, okay, reaches 0 degrees Aries, at the same time, what's going to happen is the Kali Yuga comes to an end and we enter the Satya Yuga. Saturn hits the Aries point.
Oh, wow.
And Neptune hits
the
Aries point all at the same time.
Okay? Oh, my gosh.
So this has not happened. And this is what people's perspective on stuff is so sort of like limited. Mm-hmm. This has not happened for 250,000 years.
Whoa. Okay. This is significant.
So to have, crazy women sitting around trying to define it or figure it out, it's like an exercise in futility. God knows what's going to happen. Okay. But because what we also know is that at this point in the precession cycle, okay, we've come back around full circle to the light side of things. Yeah. There is absolutely nothing, okay, that will impede the most positive, sort of like joyful, enlightened, radiant outcome, because we're leaving 13,000 years of darkness and ignorance and rulership by the man I like to call the father of lies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And all of us have been born and raised in this mire of ignorance that we were tricked into believing was true.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening right now is everybody's waking up to things that, I can't even begin to imagine, because I've been focused on this stuff since like 1960. People think I'm nuts. People don't even understand where I'm coming from half the time, because when I talk to them, I said, it was my job to do research into this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I did. And so you're working in a vacuum and you're trying to study things that nobody even talks about or let alone knows about. And you're all by yourself in that field trying to put 2 and 2 together. But now that we're so close to it's the beginning of the end, okay, where we're at right now. And I just think that the only thing that we need to do, if we want to focus on it from the nodal perspective, which you were getting into before I could make myself heard, is that Aries Libra axis. It's the horizon line for the zeitgeist of the moment. And if the south node is in Libra and the north node is in Aries, if you want to look at that, because it literally is foolish to try to think that I'm any authority who should be saying boo about this thing that's happening right now, because God knows it's bigger than me. Every time I look at, I have to talk about this stuff and write about it all the time. And every time I said, what? I don't have any business doing this. God knows I don't know what's going to happen. But with the South Node in Libra, what it means is we're moving away, because the South Node is the karmic inlet that brings all of the stuff that we've gleaned from the past into the present. So our past life experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to look at a personal chart and try to figure out where somebody's past lives have been, you always look at the South Node. You say, okay, where have they been? And what did they do? And clusters of planets around the South Node will tell you, speak volumes about what the person has been involved with in the previous life. What is up with that is that each life is given to us for a different reason. So in any series of incarnations, what's going on is we are climbing up Jacob's ladder. Mm-hmm. And on each rung of the ladder, from the perspective of the evolution of your own consciousness, you're going to have a completely different experience. You don't come back to do the same thing. And this is what we've been lied to about, because everybody believes that we came to this planet to mate and breed. Okay?
Not me.
I was never very good I wasn't too bad at mating. Well, excuse me.
Well, mating is one thing, but I don't want to breed.
No, I was great at breeding, but the whole business of mating is like, I look around now and I say, thank God I don't have a husband. As far as breeding is concerned, I could do it with my eyes closed. But the business of getting along with a man is real tricky. Anyhow, so I don't want to get off. I have a tendency to get sort of like chatty, but you got to skip what we did the last time. I brought up a few things the last time that I was like praying, okay, for months.
Angela says that we're not repeating the same mistakes till we make them, right?
well, some people never learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actually an astrological aspect that says that this person doesn't learn from their experience. So It really depends.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm.
I've made a ton of mistakes all the way down the line. Okay, but you know, what do they say? If you learn from your mistakes, then that's a good thing. That's the point. Because part of being here on Earth is this is, you know, pay attention to what Dolores Cannon says. You know, this is the weirdest place in the universe. And the way we get our lessons here is has nothing to do with the fairy tales and the silly things that we've seen in the movies. Okay, in this dimension, everything is dark or light. Okay, and the darkness holds as much light as the light does. And the problem with most of us is that we have been instructed to only see the light in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this becomes problematic because, especially for people who are involved in spiritual things and New Age stuff, because you know, there's this big thing of like, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or don't bring that up. You know, I say
Spiritual bypassing. And you know, I think that that's really a big problem right now, because there's also something that we're dealing with right now at this stage in the game that we weren't dealing with, you know, even, you know, 20, 30 years ago. And that's the effect of the whole algorithm and the way that everything is actually being very programmed now. You know, and there's also, we got AI intelligence, you know, coming in, this artificial intelligence, and that's starting to really sway a lot of things too. And, you know, I've been thinking about that aspect a lot. And I've been thinking about, well, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how things are going to go. Nobody ever really has the answers, you know. We just hypothesize and, you know, just take a stab in the dark. And that's one of the things that's beautiful about life too, though, is that it's this great big mystery that you never really can solve. But if I had to think of anything that I feel like is coming forward very strongly at this time, is that, you know, first of all, with Kali Yuga, the problem with the Kali Yuga is that, you know, it's the age of really being, you know, in apathy and lazy and greedy and indulgent. It's all about the tamasic kind of qualities, the heavy, the dull, you know, qualities. And so to me, it feels like if we want to generate the light, you know, obviously we're in the dark, we're slugging our way through it right now. We have to. There's no way that we can't look at it. We have to look at it, but we're meant to look at it so we can like integrate it, alchemize it, and then elevate it. But the only way we can really do that is if we take more of an active role, which is what I think of when I think of that Aries North Node. Aries is that initiator, you know, the magician holding up the wand and actually using the fire, bringing it forward, taking action. And I always think about how much time people now, you know, when I think of tamasic qualities, when I think of that dull kind of quality, I think of, you know, people walking around looking down at their cell phones all day, you know, and they're being programmed by this algorithm. And so I think, you know, one simple place that people can start, that they don't realize how much power it has, is just how they're utilizing social media, how they're participating, because you can absolutely program the algorithm. And I know this because I've experimented with it. You know, it's just like that thing, there's that joke about, it's a meme that is going around where it says, you know, back in the 50s, we were like worried about wiretapping, and now we're like, wiretap, what's the recipe for this cake, you know? And so it's kind of like, I've done it with my own social media where I've experimented. You notice that when you're like looking up certain things, or you're, you know, clicking on certain reels and stuff that come up on social media, it starts to influence the algorithm. It starts to influence what's coming up in your feed. But that's not just your feed, it's the algorithm as a whole. I almost view the algorithm as like the programming of the whole matrix. See, I'm a weirdo too, Cal. So I feel like if everybody could just like start with something simple, just like that, just being more of an active participant And how are you programming reality? Because I think this is the piece that so often is forgotten, and I think it's what Aries brings forward, that we are creator. You know, there is no separation. We're all connected to this energy. And there's a really need for people to step up into that role of creator and take that accountability. How am I bringing my voice forward? How am I participating online? What actions am I taking? Because it's one thing to hold space for the shadow, but when we get to the point where we're like just looking at the darkness, and then we go to that place where it's like, well, it's all, you know, I hear it all the time from people. Well, it's all screwed, so what does it matter? You know, and then nobody wants to do the work that's required. And I mean, with the dawning of the age of Aquarius and everything that's been going on with Pluto, and you know, Saturn will go back into Pisces, you know, when it's done with its little backslide. You know, we're really being asked to like loosen those structures, and we're being asked to revolutionize. We're being asked to innovate and do things in a lot different ways. And I'm going to bring in Inez's comment here, because I always love the comments that come in when you're on, Cal. The shit going on behind the curtain in this world is so dark for most humans to comprehend that it just directly does into the collective unconscious until it can't be kept under wraps any longer.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all, see, this is the thing. This is what's crawling out of the woodwork now. This is the part where we finally begin to see the extent to which the darkness that overtook us when Atlantis fell, okay, has run its course. And before we can rid ourselves or liberate ourselves from that influence, because it has its place here, but the darkness has reached what I call its astronomical limit. It doesn't get any darker than this.
Mm-hmm.
And because study the yin yang symbol, you know how it is, one half of it is dark, one half of it is light. The precession cycle is basically surrounds that image. And for 13,000 years of this 26,000 approximately year cycle, we spent 13,000 years of it in complete and total darkness and ignorance. We are just crawling out of that hole now. And it is the male principle, and people argue about this. It's so funny. The male principle is important, and it is the energy, okay, that walks with us and protects us during the dark time.
Mm-hmm.
But after 13,000 years, it's reached its astronomical limit. And when the male frequency reaches its astronomical limit, it gets really messed up. Okay, and it begins to manifest in twisted ways. All right. It's always at that point when it's just about ready to give up the ghost, or when its term of service has come to an end. And the sun passes over that line that you see in the yin yang symbol that separates the darkness from the light. We have just sort of crossed over that line. Mm-hmm. After 13 years of darkness, now we're beginning to be immersed in this light that nobody knows anything about. Okay, because they have never been exposed to that much radiance before, and they're still stuck in all of the lies and the programs that have been pulled over our eyes for over 13,000 years. I don't know how many generations that is, but people who think that they're awake now have another thing coming. I talk to people all the time who say, "Oh, I got enlightened 6 years ago." I said, "Well," I say, "Well, good for you. What do you need to talk to me then?"
Woke culture, yeah.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyhow, what's going on right now, and part of the like gender stuff that's going on in the culture right now is part of this confusion about the whole business of gender, okay, is microscopic reflection of what's going on at the cosmic level, because the shift of the ages is riding the entire solar system out of the male frequency into the female. And for the next 13,000 years, we're going to be vibrating at this female frequency that is based on cooperation and unconditional love and unity and trust. All right. We've just woken up or entered that dream. And everybody's has ideas about it that aren't necessarily based fully on experience. Okay, but at the beginning of this cycle that will again carry us through the female half of the yin yang thing, until for the next 13,000 years, 1,000 years on down the road, the female principle is going to reach her astronomical limit the way she did the last time. Okay, so what happened to the female principle 13,000 years ago? You know, the stories about the Amazons, okay, who kept the men in cages, okay, purely for sexual purposes. All right, it's kind of like it goes both ways, and the female light is beginning to shine now, so there's nothing but sweetness and light associated with it. And in the same way that right after Atlantis fell and the whole world exploded, okay, there was actually a nuclear explosion back at that time. All right, that nobody talks about because, of course, they've been lying to us about our history and everything else. Okay. Oh God, I'm losing. I'm talking about things that I.
You're going out there, man, and that's allowed here at Broad Coven. We like to go out there. We like to go out there. I like what you're bringing in though about these polarities though, because especially in relation to the Kali Yuga, you know, when we're looking at, you know, the Vedic knowledge that comes through, we know that the masculine principle is essential because the masculine principle is the avenue. The feminine principle is the creative force. But if we don't have that avenue, then the creative can't come through, you know, and it's about, you know, those energies and balance. So it's very interesting what you're bringing through there about, you know, this shift into the feminine. And you see it there's also kind of like the rejection of the masculine. You see it a lot. There's been almost a swing the other way, you know, where I hear so much kind of so much energy coming forward that's like very, very much like disrespectful of the masculine, and yet masculine, feminine, it's within all of creation. It's within us, each as individuals. We have masculine aspects, feminine aspects, the active, the receptive. So that's very interesting, this piece you're bringing in about, you know, I hadn't really thought of it that way, about the masculine reaching its limit like that. But that is very interesting because you do see it really playing out, and it's like so essential that it's like, but we need the balance. And so I think it's interesting with what's going on with I think what's interesting is what's going on with Libra coming in. Isn't it all about that with the South Node? Because isn't the South Node like what we're being asked to transform? It's like we need to like look at this, integrate it, transform it. And Libra is all about relating and relationship. And then with Aries, it's interesting too, because Aries is always kind of considered a more independent energy, the self. So I'm curious about your perspective with that, because that's something I've been curious with. And let's see, Venus Rising Perfume Oil says, I think of the mythos being replaced by logos and see the coming times as opposing forces working together, mutually rise the yin yang.
I like that.
That's kind of like what I was thinking, like that's like our challenge at this time is like, how do we relate? Like, how do we get to the place where we relate? Because that does seem like the challenge that Libra poses, is that we need to find the balance and we need to learn how to relate, and we need to have that peace where the masculine, the feminine is held in balance.
Yeah, well,
It can't be hyper feminism, right? And it
no,
can't be,
no, no,
hyper chauvinism
no,
either,
no.
right? So it's like that it's essential for there to be any creative force in the world. I mean, that's a very Vedic perspective. You know, if the masculine is not active, there is no avenue for the creative force to work through. These energies work in tandem. So it's really, and I'm curious about your perspective of that. Like, do
Yeah,
you feel that that's the challenge? Are we being asked to?
I think that you know what I think. I think it's freaking wonderful that you're even thinking about it. Okay.
Okay, good.
Uh, and I also I have been thinking about it too and trying to figure out how to frame it, because quite honestly I haven't really wrapped my mind around it yet, but I appreciate the opportunity to sort of sort it out with you, because the way I see it is the South, anytime I see the South Node in Libra, and let's just say it's in an individual chart, and I'm just going to put this out there and maybe it'll stir some thought on your end. When I see that, what I know about the individual is that they have spent every single previous lifetime as an extension of somebody else, where their individuality or their unique essence never had a chance to be itself, and was always only a reflection of what somebody else or other people in general expected of them or wanted from them. So you're looking at individuals who have absolutely no sense of who they are, except in relation to other. Okay, so the Aries piece of that is in an individual chart, that individual has come in for another incarnation, and in this life their ultimate purpose and fulfillment relies heavily upon or exclusively upon whether or not they finally get to find out who in God's name they are. Now, I'm trying to figure out how to apply this to mankind as a whole. And I have a hard time sort of wrapping, I mean, we might be able to have another conversation about this, because at the moment it's so soon for me. I don't know how to read it in terms of the culture as a whole. But what I think it means is that up until now, we have allowed ourselves to be led and ultimately misled by forces that, since the fall, okay, and I keep looking at these things and I lose my train of thought, so you keep track of them, okay? Because I'm just in the middle of trying to say something good. So since the fall of Atlantis, or since, from the biblical perspective, the flood, okay, everybody here, including all the people that think they're not, subject to any of this, have been led and misled by forces and influences that have never once had our best interests in mind. And we've fallen, okay, victim to this inability to come to terms with what's real for us, or what's real inside us, or or who we are spiritually, okay? Because the pressure has been to fit in and to go along with the program. And that is what an afflicted Libra will do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So on a global scale, you're thinking about mankind as a whole. Okay. All of us have been swayed. Okay. 13,000 years of programming that has basically caused us to fall into this thing of not even realizing, okay, that part of us has never come out from behind the door.
Mm-hmm.
So with this shift out into Aries, okay, and so the focus now for our fulfillment, because the South Node in Libra, or at the South Node anywhere, okay, is always a sign that you've been there and you've done that, and please stop doing it because it's not serving you. and there might be some aspects of it that have loaned you with a certain amount of wisdom and knowledge, and you can keep that stuff, but you have to throw out the piece that needs to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And as the Aries thing begins to develop, what happens is that each one of us comes into contact with who we really are, okay, and allows themselves permission to express that any way they choose, with the understanding that all of it is okay. And part of the reason there's so much crazy stuff going on, you have these kids who think they're, you have little kids who are, I don't really know if it's cool to get into this, but you have people who are, boys that want to be girls, girls that want to be boys. They have people that identify as turtles, that kind of stuff. Okay. That is actually a reflection of this. It's an aberrated reflection of this. Because if they knew more about how the universe works, they probably would know enough not to engage in those things. But because it's not their fault, nobody knows how the universe works, because that information has been kept from us. Okay. And so everybody.
Yeah, I think that, it's a time where people are opening up to new thoughts and freedom of expression. And like you were saying, that freedom to be who we are. And, I think that, like you were saying, it's a collective energy. So naturally, children are going to pick up what's going on in the collective energy as well. Their minds are very open and expansive. And I think there's a lot of people trying to find their way. And there's a lot of people just trying to figure things out, and just also be able to have a certain level of freedom of expression, and to be able to have autonomy in that, within their right to express themselves as they choose. And I think that that's also a reflection of, don't you think, Pluto in Aquarius? I mean, Pluto in Aquarius is about total rebellion, and it's not actually it's not something that's so uncommon anyway. I mean, this is something that's come through many, many times throughout society. I just think that we're starting to create more inclusive spaces where people are being allowed to explore those things that it wasn't okay for them to be as vocal about it before, about their questioning, their explorations. I mean, you look back at the 70s, look at glam rock, look at David Bowie, look at this has always been, look back all the way back to the Greeks. I mean, there's always been this sort of fluidity. But I think that what was different is that there were certain structures in place that made it not acceptable to vocalize that made it not acceptable to bring it out, in more of a public way, where publicly the collective consciousness is kind of looking at these different aspects and looking at, the role that gender plays. But to me, it's kind of like, it's all kind of a moot point because we all have masculine and feminine polarities within us. Masculine and feminine is within everything. And so it doesn't really matter if somebody chooses to, express themselves more from their masculine or their feminine. There's times when I'm very much in my feminine, and then there's times when I embody more classically masculine traits, where I'm more forefront, more kind of take charge, So, and I think a lot of that also goes back to the structure. If we look at like the 1950s, and then how there were very defined roles, right? Very defined roles. This is how you behave if you're a woman. This is how you behave if you're a man. And then we had a big shift that happened. Well, now, with feminism, women are meant to work, and now you need to go out into the workforce, and now you take on more of a masculine role, and so there's throughout history, we've seen this shifting in polarities and people trying to figure out like, well, what is my role? And it's more like, I think there's this desire to kind of transcend that, like having to be in a box and to be able to just be a human being expressing yourself. But I think children are very impressionable, children are very impressionable, and children, yeah, the defined roles are as old as the patriarchy, absolutely, And I think what we're seeing with, Aquarius so front and center, and with there being more of an openness around, people looking at these things, I feel like, it's just natural to have more of this kind of coming to a head. But again, you also have distortions that can come within that as well, and, certainly something that I think is like, it's very individual journey, very individual situation, and very individual topic, but, it's something that absolutely is in the collective consciousness right now, for sure. And there's a lot of people that have different opinions about it. But ultimately, my stance is that people should have the freedom to be whoever they want to be. And that freedom should be across the board. And there's also the piece of when we look at children, they're children, And just like when I was a little kid, if I wanted some of the tattoos I wanted when I was a little kid, it would have been a problem, So I think also one thing that kind of makes me sad is that children are so like forced to grow up so fast these days.
Mm-hmm.
And they need more time to be kids and do their own exploring and come to their own decisions about those things, And sometimes, there can be coercion too. And so it's really about letting kids have the freedom to be who they are and learn who they are, just like we had that, right?
Well, I believe, I totally, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. Yes, defined roles and labeling oneself can be limiting. I mean, I don't even think in those terms, but I'm going to say something that is a little bit out of the box, but I have to say it because what you're saying is absolutely true. Everybody should have the freedom to be who they are. The problem with that is we've been living in a system, that has been messing with us for about 13,000 years. And since, as far as gender and all that stuff is concerned, I'm not fixed on what that needs to be. What bothers me about it is that back in the 1950s, when we all sort of got lined up and Jonas Salk was busy, starting out with a vaccine thing, it was at that point that the Okay, the powers that be, or whoever makes decisions, the same people that made the decision to genetically modify the food we eat, decided back in the 50s that they would introduce male hormones into all of the vaccines that were administered to females, and that they would introduce female hormones into all of the vaccines that were going to be administered to males. So right off the bat, before the person even gets to find out who they are, some external influence has already messed with their genetic makeup in a way that disallows them ever really being able to get in touch with who they would have been if that had not happened.
Oh, but we got hormones in our food supply. It's, it's in everything.
It's
in everything.
And this is part of an agenda that nobody, it's fine for people to, as long as everybody knows what's going on. It wasn't even done against our will. It was done behind our backs. So you wonder why, I don't know, what is it now, 73 years down the road, how many generations is that? It's 3 generations maybe, of people have been influenced by this activity on the part of the powers that be. And so that now what's happened to the gene pool is the question of gender has been sort of skewed by the fact that something unnatural happened to us. Okay, nobody knows this. And this is what I mean about 13,000 years of ignorance. All right. So I'm throwing that out there just as a way, okay, for people to begin to think about why it is all of a sudden now that any of this has to be an issue. Because you see, the other thing is we live in the 3rd dimension, and there are certain physical laws that are axiomatic in this dimension that are required for life to maintain itself in a form.
I think some of what happens and why it's such an issue too, though, is I think that, again, that goes back to the programming and the algorithm, and a lot is kind of put out there. And I mean, first of all, we can't go by a lot of what is put out in the media anyway, because it's all manipulation. So if you notice that with all the issues, everything coming to a head, it's like it increases more division. And purposefully, things are kind of being presented in certain ways to the public through media channels that present a certain image that creates further division. And it's very purposeful. And it's not just, it applies to all things. It's the same thing that happens, in terms of, issues between different cultures, you name it, that everything is geared to keep people divided. And there's a reason for that. I mean, the reason for that is that if we really, unified, then these so-called powers that be wouldn't have the power anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of, fear and separation are all on the same. This person here is saying there can be abortion. Yeah, in the native cultures, actually, when a person hits puberty, they get to decide if they want to be gay or not. And they have coming of age rituals for everybody. Okay, and it's actually in the Native American community, the people that are called the gay people are actually revered.
Okay. This concept of 2 spirits, it's also part of Vedic belief as well. In fact, we do, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, I've only encountered it once. It's very rare, but you can get on the pulse on some people when you read the Prakruti, their birth type, which gives their whole, like, it's the makeup, all their doshas, and that's like their constitutional type. Very, very, very rare, but they call them twin spirits, and they're considered like very, like, revered. It's like a blessing to be a twin spirit, and you can feel it on the pulse. It's like two different energies. Yes.
Yeah. The native people refer to them as heyokas. They're shaman. Okay, they're the ones who get to be the shaman. All right, so it's a completely different thing. It isn't the anyhow, in the native culture there is a place for that is not confused. Okay, there is a place for that it comes out of the fact that they actually have enough wisdom to handle that information.
It's because of the inclusivity. It's because of the space that's held around it. It's because of the way that in native culture they haven't lost their connection to the earth.
I know.
It's very much that's what it's about. And again, it goes back to the programming. It goes back to the algorithm, and that everything is slanted. So when we see things on the news, we see things, slanted from the perspective of what will incite division. And it's very targeted in that way. So I think that that's where there is that difference, because in native culture, there is a certain space held, there's a connection, it's different. And so I think so much of the distortion.
They have a conscious relationship to all of that.
Yes. And we have trouble talking about those things as a society, because people have such loaded feelings, it's the same, it's all the same trip, whether you're looking at like somebody identifies as a liberal or they identify as a Republican. It's like, it's the same thing. It's just the way things are presented, they're slanted in such a way that people take it in and they run it through this filter that automatically puts us in this perspective of us versus them. And as long as we're in that perspective of us versus them, we're disempowered.
That's right.
We'll remain disempowered. So it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to navigate. And it also shows the challenge that there is in society with navigating that as well, Absolutely.
Well, nobody's JS is saying respect our bodies that we are born with. You bet. Yeah, that looks like my daughter. I don't know why. It looks like my daughter Joanna. It's her. It's funny. Never mind. No, that's her in her bathing suit. Anyhow. Yes. Yeah. I
think it comes down to the basic fundamental issue, which was the same issue that, came forward during the pandemic and, vaccinations and all that. It's the same issue no matter how you look at it. If there's going to be body autonomy has to be across the board. And that means if it's your body, it's your business, and it's your choice. And how you express that, it's up to you. And we need to focus on creating inclusive spaces where people are free to be who they are. And there's a lot of violence out there in the world too, against, people who make choices that are maybe not what somebody else would make, or maybe not what a conservative would agree with. And that's when it's really important that we hold those spaces of inclusivity, which is about autonomy. I mean, that's what it comes. Isn't it interesting? It's just like you were talking about. It's the same thing with like the Libra, the Aries, the collective,
and also
the independent.
yes, Aries is male, Libra's female.
Yeah, masculine, feminine polarity. Yes.
Aries is Mars, Libra's Venus. There is this whole thing with that. The other thing I think that is
Oh, this is powerful. And there's not enough silence or stillness in the culture for people to really discern who they really are. Absolutely.
Well, people are have been seduced by distraction. Everything is a gigantic distraction. And I agree with this person, silence and stillness. You know, my hobby is, you know, everybody says, what do you do in your free time? I say nothing. That's what I do in my free time. And I love nothing. But the other thing I wanted to say is, like, see, there's so much ignorance. People don't even know the basic stuff. So if you just begin by, like, picking up a copy of the Kabbalion and reading, boop, the first 6 or 7 Hermetic laws, okay, knowing that there are 64 more, okay, that we've never heard about because all of that stuff disappeared when they burned down the library at Alexandria. When I say we've been swimming in ignorance, you know, even the people that go to Harvard have been swimming in ignorance. So this business of understanding, you know, the 6 Hermetic laws, and the primary one is as above, so below. That's why right now, as the ages are shifting and the precession cycle is pulling us out of the male polarity into the female polarity, the way it's being interpreted here on Earth is people who don't understand the larger picture are running out and deciding to switch genders. All right. It's sort of an aberrated response to something. Why wouldn't we be dealing with such challenges around the zeitgeist that is at this point dying off? Why wouldn't be? Well, there's a new guy. Well, so the old paradigm has fallen apart. The new zeitgeist is forming out of the chaos, okay, that we're experiencing now. Right now, everything is in a state of chaos. Okay, well, if you do any kind of research into the myths, chaos was there before the world was formed. Chaos is, another word for chaos is the realm of possibilities.
Hail Eris.
Say it again.
I'm all about chaos. I mean, it takes chaos to birth a star. You know, we need it. We need it. But the thing is again, it comes to that piece about, like, that's why I dig that we got, like, Aries North Node, Libra South Node action going on, because it's like, what we need an avenue for the chaos to, like, be channeled through, and it can't be willy-nilly everywhere, right? It has to be focused. It has to have a site that it's set on in order for chaos to birth a star. It's not like just some haphazard, you know, kind of, there's a lot of elements that come together within chaos, that there is even an order within disorder, you know? And I think that that's just so interesting, that piece, because of the Saturn energy that has been in Pisces. It's not right now, but it will go back, you know, but it's, you know, it's that same thing. I mean, Pisces is so, you know, expansive. You know, you got Pisces, you got Neptunian energy, you got Jupiter energy, right? And then you got, like, Saturn in Pisces. So it's like whole new flow, right? And Pluto and again, then you got also Pluto in Aquarius that we'll be dealing with, you know, that's all about rebelling against all the shoulds, all the roles, all the structures, all the, you know. So it's like, yes, there is this chaos, but it's also like, I view it kind of almost like partnership, you know. partnership within our relationships, how we relate to each other, but also that partnership of life. And how can we work with all this energy to allow it to be a catalyst for growth, you know, to allow it to be a catalyst for growth and evolution instead of regression, which when I think of regression, I think of us staying in these like polarized spaces that automatically cut off, you know, cut off the ability for there to be growth. As long as we stay in the polarization, it's just like, you know,
Yeah, no, I get it.
there's no moving forward. So it's like, how can we work with that energy? How can we funnel it? Yes, I agree. I agree. That's where each of us has to be consciously responsible around choices. No passing the buck.
Yeah, being accountable is a big deal.
It is.
You know, I think the whole business of the Libra Aries thing is, as far as I'm concerned, the other thing about Aries is it always is there when something new is beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's the archetype that gets the entire zodiac rolling. Okay, so the force behind that Mars energy is necessary at the outset of any operation. And because in about 18 months to 2 years time, there's going to be the zeitgeist is going to be in the chaos that we are experiencing now, which is the result of huge amount of ignorance and the confusion that is being generated by the AI and the techno culture and the people that are involved, okay, broadcasting that stuff.
But that's the thing. I mean, I think this also ties right into it. You know, what Venus rising perfume oil is saying here is the fact that, you know, we are accountable for that too.
Of course.
We're accountable for how we program it. I mean, the algorithm exists. It's really interesting because I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been looking at a lot of the like AI stuff that's been coming out because I see it all over social media, just like different AI videos, and it's like the energy behind it is so dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's like really freaking dark, and I'm like, why is this so demonic? Like it has like a demonic feel to it, and
it is demonic. That's the dark side of Pluto and Aquarius, because on the one hand, Aquarius is peace, love, and understanding, and this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but its dark component is alien intelligence and techno. The flip side of Aquarius is this addiction to technology. Okay, I can't see the card. It's all.
It's interesting because these are the cards that came out when I was shuffling, and it's the Nine of Pentacles. You know, I think of Nine of Pentacles. I think of that pre-Empress energy, which I think of, you know, Taurus North Node. Like this is like the reward of the Taurus North Node rising up into that Taurus North Node where we understand what has worth, where we understand what has value, where we birth a new beginning, where you know, we're mindful of the seeds we're planting, you know, but this is in reverse. It's in reverse, which shows like we're still too much, you know, in that Scorpio South node. We haven't taken the subconscious and really brought it up into the light, which I feel is partially the process we're all going through collectively right now. And it's jarring, right? It's jarring to see all this stuff that's been hiding in the dark. That's also right in tandem with the age of the Kali Yuga. It's about taking what's been hidden, and it's about exposing it to the light. But there's also that piece of no mud, no lotus. So that's part of the transformational process. We can't rise up into the light until we first have come up out of that muck, you know? And it's interesting because this says submission to higher order identifies traitors and destroys their plans, but we have it in reverse, you know? So that goes a lot in alignment with, you know, what we can't see, which is, it reminds me of the whole story of Wizard of Oz and, you know, good old Oz back there, you know, the wizard behind the curtain, you know, running the show. And it's like, that's will always destroy our plans when we don't have an active participation in what's going down, and we give away the power to false power structures. We give away the power to false power structures because we refuse to look at the ways that we are continuing to feed the fear, feed the division, my side, your side, us, that it's so important right now that we remember that piece, that we are meant to be here as active participants. Life is not happening to us, it's happening through us, and we're meant to bring forward our creative energy. We are meant to actually bring our energy forward and participate and be accountable for holding our peace instead of making it about, yes, and we don't want to be responsible. That's exactly it. And it's so funny that you say that, because this other card here is 8 of Cups. And look, the angel is holding a vessel, and it reminds me of the vessel that Aquarius has, right? And it's like, look, if you want to rise up in this Aquarian age, there is a need for purification here, man. We have to walk away from what we know doesn't bear fruit. We have to walk away from what is keeping us out of the garden, you know? And what's keeping us out of the garden is that we are not recognizing the truth, which, you know, going back to what you brought in about the original lie is that there is division.
Or that is the original lie. Yeah, the original lie is, of course, is separation.
Yes, and this is what we need to remember. We have to come into the unity consciousness. Look at this. This angel's like, you gotta cleanse that shit, man. And it says right here, it says transformation gives consolation in adversity. And that makes me think, it's like, yeah, we're going through birthing pains, man. We're going through birthing pains collectively, right? And everybody is confused. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Everything's uncertain. Right. People are freaking out, man, you know?
Even the people like you and I, who have to figure out how to, you know, break it all down and explain it. I mean, I'm as confused as the next person, but that's the function of chaos. Order is born out of chaos. Or chaos was here before Gaia and Psyche got together and birthed the world. Okay, so chaos is here now. We are swimming in it. Is there any prescription or any set of instructions for how to navigate chaos? It's oxymoronic to even think that could exist. So I think
how do we need to navigate chaos? What do we need to do here? Let's see what the cards have to say. What do your cards say, Cal?
I don't know.
Let's throw it up there. Let's just ask Spirit, what does the collective need to do to navigate this chaos and use it as a creative force to birth that North Star that guides us where we need to go, so we can really step into that Aquarian age, you know? That star card is, you know, it is that Aquarian energy, and that came out here on the board. You know, we're meant to head in that direction. So how do we do that? How do we get to the point where we can kind of bridge the divide and we can get on the same side, where we can do like we're doing tonight, where we're talking about the uncomfortable stuff? Ooh, yes. You know, it's so funny that you brought that in, because that's what opened up my read, was Ace of Swords in reverse. And that's, we're not aligning with the truth.
That's right.
So we need to align with the truth. We also need to speak our truth. What do I got here? Let's see what the angels have to say. Ooh.
What you got?
The Fool and the Sun.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Yes.
Okay, so this one says, the Fool, the exalting God, will and new beginnings assist with difficult undertakings. And I love this. Look, it almost has like Sagittarian energy. Look, he's like, just shoot your shot, man. You got to get focused. You got to shoot your shot. But the thing is if we can just get that as a focal point, if the focal point can be, how can we bring things together? If the focal point can be, how can we focus on solutions instead of thinking about what divides us or what the problem is? How can we become more solution oriented? And yeah, it is a bit like shooting at the moon, right? It's like, how do you hit the mark when you're shooting for the moon, when you're down in the muck, right? But there's this piece about you got to have the will for a new beginning. And that's part of the problem is people are so apathetic. It's like they're throwing in the towel before they even give it a good go, you know?
Well, you've got to, okay, well, think of all the external influences that are adding to our confusion, like PS 5G. All right. And the extent to which that is completely screwing up people's thought trains. And a zillion other things that we could go down the list of, but my feeling is that when you talk about what can we do, or if you can talk about even what the Fool means and what the Sun means in this context, is that the Fool is the first card in the whole goddamn deck.
Gotta hit reset.
So we're on the path of the Fool at the beginning of a new time. Actually, the Fool is ruled by Aries. Hello. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Sun is
also Aquarius. It's actually dualistic. It can be either Aries or Aquarius.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. It's like Aries taking the initiative to lead us into that Aquarian age. And it says here though, the thing is the most important thing is if we want a new beginning, what do we have to do? We have to take a chance on a new beginning. If we don't, if we just sit there and go, oh, well, it's hopeless, everything's a mess, we're going to hell in a handbasket, then we surely will. But it's interesting here. The sun says rejuvenation of life, restoration, protection from adversaries.
Yeah, the Sun's a good. All those two cards tell me is everything's going to be okay. And
yeah, it's like, but I think it's just like shifting. We got to shift the collective consciousness around the way we're looking at things, because as long as we stay in that polarized place where we continue to focus on problems or the blame game, or it prevents us from doing what we need to do, which is the only thing that we can do. Like when I think of it, as I think of any big problem I'm facing in my life, let's take it from the macrocosm to the microcosm, because I think sometimes looking at it from the macrocosmic perspective can be overwhelming for people, because it's like, yeah, I'm just one person. Like, what am I supposed to do? Look at the state of the world. Like, what can I do? I don't know what's going to happen. But if you take it down to the microcosmic level and you go, well, okay, I may not be able to control what anybody else does, but I do get to control my own choices. I do get to use my will, like it was saying here, will and new beginnings. I do get to choose where I put my focus. I do get to choose my target, what I'm hoping for. And if my target is unity, and if my target is helping to bring forward my creative energy to open up that way to a new beginning, to help provide that avenue for that creative force to work through, which the creative force is that divine feminine force. It is the Empress birthing new worlds into being. Then if I am putting my focus there, I can be a conduit for that. I can be a channel for that. And in my own little microcosm, I'm nurturing that in the world. And
Yes.
the thing is, it's just like that cosmic web of creation that's out there, you know, in the multiverse. That that web of creation is here on Earth too. And so every action we take as an individual, since we are all one energy at the end of the day, it reverberates through all of existence.
Mhm.
So we actually have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of the Aries North Node energy coming in is about that. It's about actualizing that power. It's about recognizing, oh, wait, because we know that in that magician card, there are all the elements are in that magician card, but there's a big key in that magician card, and that's that you got to use your fire to direct that energy with that wand. And the fire is our creative force, and our fire is taking action. So it's almost like even within that card that represents Aries is the key. You know, the key is will. We got to engage our will. And we can't worry about how others are engaging their will because, well, autonomy, you know, they're going to direct their will as they choose. We can only direct our will in our own life. And how are we going to apply our focus and our energy? Are we going to focus on dividing points or connecting points? And if we can shift our focus more to connecting points, which I'm not saying that's easy, it's a challenge for sure. It's a huge challenge. But the more that we can each do that as individuals, that's how you do shift the algorithm.
That's what what I've come to is exactly what you're saying. Basically, it happens one heart at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, one heart at a time, and the business of remaining in integrity and also to cleaning up your own backyard and reckoning with your lies and your own little hypocrisies, because you see it all the time. You see people who say one thing and do another.
Yeah.
Today I was just thinking, so look, all I want to do, and I think this is the best I can do right now, is remain in integrity in all of my relationships, and to figure out, no matter who's there or what's going on, how to come from a loving place.
Yes.
And to always tell the truth and maintain some level of accountability for everything that I do. The other thing that I think is important is to think about conscience. Okay, yes, on a cellular level, and yes, of course, everything happens at the cellular level. Okay, and you know, there is no separation. Basically, the metaphysical level and the cellular level are just one and the same. The physical part is the matrix that the physical thing gets stretched upon. But oh God, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I think the business of conscience is extremely important, and there's everybody is born with a conscience. Okay, and your conscience is, you know, Jiminy Cricket. Okay, the piece of you that tells you what's right and what's wrong, blah 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 blah. So we all have a conscience, but because this is a free will planet, okay, not everybody knows how to be conscientious. All right. So the conscience has to be conscientious about itself. And if that is the case, and if each one of us can be conscientious in relationship to our own lives, and be rigorously truthful about all of it, what happens is that conscientiousness is what allows us to expand our consciousness.
Yes.
The problem with having a conscience is most people, or okay, I'll be liberal. 50% of us don't know how to be conscientious. And so my question always is, what would it take to inspire other people to be conscientious about their actions and their sense of purpose and their, relationships with other people and with life itself? What is it that makes a person be able to say, I'm not going to do this because it doesn't feel right, and the one that says go ahead and do it because who cares, or I'm going to go ahead and do this because it'll make me rich. It won't help anybody, but it'll make me rich. Or even in the small things where you're in a situation with another person and you're in the wrong, and you blame everything under the sun for the fact that, it's in the smallest things, every single act and interaction that you have with another person is just an opportunity to see, am I coming from love here?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being truthful? Love, truth. This is what I wanted to say about the male and the female earlier. It's all based on the Merkaba.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the star tetrahedral energy field that is sort of the heart of the human light body. Okay, the top half of that star tetrahedron is male. The bottom half of the star tetrahedron is female.
It's like that with yantra, with the yantra too, which is the heart of the Merkaba. This is so interesting you're bringing this in, because the Merkaba has been coming in so strongly for me lately with the download. I mean, and it is the way we travel between worlds, and I'm starting to see it almost as like an archetypal symbol of like how we travel from where we are into this new age, right? And so it was making me think of that unification of the energies, because it's two yantras that are combined, but then there's also the triangular formations that shoot out forward and behind. So it's like the way forward rises up out of the past, but it's through transformation and that unification of the energy that we actually birth that way forward. And the Merkaba, to me, in fact, in the Angel Tarot, the Merkaba is associated with Metatron. And they have it as the chariot. They have it as the chariot in this tarot. So I think that's like, oh, look what's right on the bottom of the deck there. Look, strength.
Yeah.
Look, the unification, like these angels are all helping each other up. It's like that piece of like we're all walking each other home, and I think it goes back to the point of
that's right.
We can't control anything.
Well, that's the thing.
And so we can only hold our peace, And through Metatron's been coming in for me so strong. It's so funny that you were thinking of Metatron too. Yeah. Metatron's been really forward, and Metatron also alchemizes the energies, takes the low vibrational energy, amplifies it, raises the vibration, transmutes it. It's interesting because I would like to hear your thoughts on this too, because it's something that's like so forward. Kat D wants to know, Cal, what your thoughts are on ascension.
I wrote a book on that. What are my thoughts on ascension? I kind of take it for granted. I mean, essentially what we've been, where this conversation is sort of us trying to come to terms with what you are referring to ascension. So what you're saying is how do we do our part to assist life, okay, and moving all of us through the eye of the needle. that's my thoughts on ascension. I happen to be in the middle of it, and I think what I just said is the best. My thoughts on ascension is that I'm just here, not trying to hold things back or hold things down. I'm here trying to bring as much light as I can through my heart into everything that I do, and in the process serve to lighten things up enough or enlighten things up enough to be able to help everyone I come into contact with float right up there along with me. So this isn't limited to the moments when I'm just hanging out, meditating, or sitting quietly by myself. The lady at the cashier at the Big Y, you know, the mailman that gave me directions the other day, the red-haired black lady that was out of her mind on something at 8 o'clock in the morning at the Quickie Mart, who was inarticulate and couldn't give me directions, and the guy behind the counter who didn't have a clue about anywhere or anything that was going on. And it's in my everyday comings and goings that the God in me has an opportunity to connect with whatever is out there in my field of experience, in my field of vision, and just be that which I know I need to be to make whatever it is that I exchange with another heart, whether I know them or not, okay, be something that improves or expands or enlightens whatever it is that's passing between us. Okay, so you just essentially, and I think once you passed a certain age, the basic rule of thumb is just come from love. Okay, and sometimes coming from love is you to tell the truth. Okay, and sometimes telling the truth gets you to deep shit. Okay, but at the end of the day, if you're coming from love, and this is the point, because getting back to Metatron and getting back to the Merkaba, okay, if you have studied the Merkaba, you know that star tetrahedron on the top is the male tetrahedron, and the principles that are held in that aspect of the star tetrahedron are love, truth, and beauty. Love and truth. Okay, you can only speak the truth if you're coming from love.
It's interesting because we've been doing this like Panchakarma work here on Broad Coven, like a community Panchakarma. We talked a lot about this, like coming from love, and in particular when you're having like a really challenging conversation, or you know, you got like the head butting, and we got so much of that, right? There's like just so much of this combativeness in the world, so much conflict, and even just within our own little microcosm of our personal relationships, our friendships. And so we were talking about one simple thing. We used to do this at the Dhyana Center, which was the Ayurvedic center where I worked, when we would have difficult conversations, because we did like what we're doing here. And I think, first of all, I think this piece is super important when we're looking at ascension, which ascension, I think, is something that can't be viewed. This is what I think is distorted about ascension as it's presented, is that ascension is presented as from an egoic place. That's what I see. You know, when people talk about ascension, I have ascended, you know, and right there, that's still staying in a divisory kind of mindset, because I feel there's no ascension until all has ascended, right? So the best that we can do is kind of like focus on coming from that place of love, like you were talking about. and doing what we're doing here, which is what people are so resistant to doing, is having open communication, you know, sharing different perspectives. And where people do have different views, it doesn't have to be a point of combativeness. There can be understanding that rises from that as we go through these kind of murky areas and we talk to each other and we figure things out and try to see different perspectives. And in fact, I feel like with the age of Aquarius, that is a central theme in how we are going to navigate the way forward, is learning how to communicate in a non-combative way, learning how to communicate about the things that are so difficult to communicate about because we have such polarized views.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get two people that have such polarized views on the same page? Well, you don't do that by sticking your head in the sand. Yeah. You have to take that risk of hearing another's truth, even if you vehemently oppose it.
That's right.
And then within that, how do you create space around that so you can get through the firewall of kind of the combative emotion, and you can just understand, okay, well, how did this view formulate? And how can we get to that place again where instead of looking at the differences or what divides, we look at what unifies? Because anytime we come to the unifying point, we come to that point of alchemy where we are feeding the ascension of the collective consciousness. And at the Dhyana Center, we used to do something very simple. So this and it is effective. When it, you know, I had the pleasure of working in an Ayurvedic healing center for about 8 years, and it was like such a little bubble that operated so different from the rest of the world that, you know, it made me forget, you know, when I would leave there, that, oh, the world doesn't operate like this, like most people don't operate like this. And I love this point of presence, because I feel like that's the most important thing, is just presence, being here, being now. This is our point of power. And how can we be present even when it's uncomfortable, right? How can we hold space even when it's uncomfortable? How can we hold space even when we don't agree, so that something can come out of it? So there can be some kind of alchemizing energy that does elevate the consciousness. Yes, even in chaos. How can we be present even in the chaos? And there's something we used to do at the Dhyana Center, because at the Dhyana Center, we used to work through our problems. You know, we had so many people that worked there. Okay, so you have this place where you have all these people working, and we all have our different moods, and we all have our different feelings, but we're on this path of Ayurveda together, and that's the one thing we have in common. So in Ayurveda, it's all about mind, body, spirit, and like getting into it. Like you don't sweep things under the rug. Like you're conscious around it. So we held that space around it. And we would always meet in circle. Like if we had disagreements within, you know, the group of people that worked there, which is natural, you're going to have that happen sometimes. We had a very simple practice that changes everything. And that's that when we would talk, we would place our hand on our heart, and just placing your hand on your heart, even when you're feeling like really combative, just this. There's a way that we can like protect ourselves, right? Or protect our hearts where we close off and we're like this, and this is very like contracted. But if you put your hand on your heart, it's still like creating this safe space around you, but it's a different energy. It's expansive, it's open. And so we were doing this Panchakarma here back in the spring for Kapha season. And we came up with this whole Kriya. The Kriya just kind of got born through the Panchakarma process. And one of the things that came in was, we used to put the hand on the heart, you know, at the Dhyana Center. But then I was like, ooh, you know, left, feminine, right, masculine. What really I feel needs to be healed with the masculine is there's so much focus on patriarchy, that what is being lost is the masculine as protector, right? The masculine as provider, like that there is a loving side of the masculine too that has
Yeah.
been completely castrated.
That's
And
right.
so there's this piece where we brought this in, and just try it, just humor me, just try it. If you put your left hand on your heart, and then notice the difference when you place your right hand, that masculine energy, just sheltering it. It's really like, it feels beautiful. And it's just such a simple thing. It's
Well,
just
even
such,
when you, yeah,
it's such a simple thing of just creating a conscious focus for the communication. Like you say, I always try to come from my heart. And this is a way we can just make direct contact with our body. And when we do this, it's such a simple thing. But this brings us to that place of presence. And it's like, oh, wait, that's right, my heart, my heart. It's not about what's going on up here. It's about this, my heart. And when you speak from this place, it's different. It carries a different energy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I think that this is like, we don't have the answers, right? But I think this is a damn good place to start. Just
Yeah, I
something
agree.
as simple as this, that when I'm running into a conflict with somebody, or when I'm viewing somebody as my enemy, or when I can't seem to drop my negative feelings about something, and I'm very much in my polarized position, and I'm like, no, I just gotta prove my point,
I wouldn't
to
do it.
just take a
Yeah,
moment and do this. It's so simple. And
I
it's
know.
such a little thing, and it brings so much consciousness in. It brings that presence in. So
It's interesting, isn't it? No, the thing that I wanted to finish saying about the Merkaba was, if the upper part of that star tetrahedron is the male polarity, and it is, and that male polarity holds space for the principles of love, truth, and beauty. The female aspect of the star tetrahedron is the three principles that it holds space for are trust, harmony, and peace. But without love, truth, and beauty, you can't have trust, harmony, and peace. And the heart sits in the center
yeah,
of all of that. At least actually at the physical level, it does.
it
So
does.
when I think
The
of love,
bridging point.
trust, harmony, and peace is the female polarity. And if the male is doing what he needs to be doing, then the female, it supports or makes room for the female to come forward. Okay, because that's ultimately what it is. I mean, for me, relative, in terms of male and female, trust is the most important thing. But when there's trust, you can move to harmony and peace. And the problem with what's going on in here is the basic, the Merkaba is the frigging creation pattern in the third dimension. All right. And it's being messed with, or it's been messed with.
It's been messed with, but we can hold it down if we let the masculine do what the masculine needs to do and provide that avenue for us, But we can't do that if we don't make it safe for men to do that. You know what I'm saying?
No, well, nobody knows anything. You see, this is the problem. So it's everything that's going on right now comes from a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So yes, this understanding the connection between the male and the female, this is going to bring up a lot of arguments because people are really polarized on that issue right now for reasons that have to do with, well, anyhow, yeah, I'm thinking a lot about the Merkaba these days, and about the whole business of bringing balance into the world has something to do with balancing both of those principles inside us. So what is, for me, the piece that is related to love and truth and beauty, you don't even get to touch beauty. The love, truth, beauty, trust, harmony, and peace. Those are the 6 faces of God. All right. Love and truth. Love is the primary thing. Truth is born out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Truth cannot exist if love is not there. But when love and truth come together, and you've heard the expression, truth is, truth is beauty and beauty is truth. Okay, beauty is what we see when we witness God in whatever nature is showing us. So love and truth give birth to beauty. And the problem here in the 3rd dimension is we get stuck on beauty. The only reason that beauty exists, it's one of the faces of God. And when we see something beautiful, the function that it serves is to remind us that there is a God. Okay, and when we get to the point where we have a complete understanding of what beauty actually is, okay, then the space opens for trust, harmony, and peace to enter the picture.
Well, that's what we're going to learn with Libra in the South Node, with the Empress here in reverse.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Then
what,
Libra's going to take us into that deep dive. And I love this card because it, look, it's exactly what we're talking about. It says God,
yeah.
Father, the generous. And look at there's that tree of knowledge with the snake rising up, which is our chakra system. And you brought that, that piece in about the heart is the connecting point. And it absolutely is the connecting point between the higher energy centers and the lower. It's what helps us bridge as above, so below. We got to, the heart is the bridging point between pulling down, the ethers and rooting it in material reality.
Mm-hmm.
It is the joining of the masculine, the feminine. We have to find that way. And it says what we can get out of this is fertility and fruitfulness. And it says assures peace between married couples. So, but first we got something to alchemize here right now, because when I think of Empress in reverse, Empress in reverse can't birth a new beginning. But not only that, Empress in reverse is she takes on the role of the emperor. You know what I'm saying? She is in her place of receptivity and openness and flowering. She's in the taking on it all. She's playing the role of the emperor. Well, Aries is the emperor, so it goes back to that part of the masculine, if you notice, has been very attacked to the point that it's not even safe for the masculine to be in a place of playing that role of protector, because we've vilified the masculine in our society.
Yeah.
So how can we even bridge that gap if we don't even create spaces for that? And that's something that so many people don't want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? We could go down a whole rabbit hole just with that. But I feel like this is really what this, I didn't notice this. Look at this. This angel has an ace of cups and the little snake is taking some sips out of it.
Oh, interesting.
That's how we get that new beginning when, spirit pours into us, and it's that birth of that creativity within us. But I think that's really what we're going to be learning about. And I think we're going to be learning about it through relationship, but also understanding the unity within relationships through understanding that conjuncto, that sacred marriage within the self, between the masculine and the feminine. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot.
I know. I feel like it's kind of like trying to hold light in a basket. You really can't do it. And it's you know, I would always like to be able to say something concrete, but these days I don't even know what to say anymore, because the order that is going to be born out of this chaos has not made itself known to me as yet. And what I see going on around us now is that we're in, in the breach, as they say.
Mummy,
yeah.
change.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yes, look with the pyramids in the background, and Egyptology is so at the forefront now, just with Sirius and all that energy that's coming. But this mummy reminds me a lot of the Eight of Swords. Just in the Eight of Swords, they're bound and blindfolded, but they're kind of like looking underneath the blindfold. And it's like now we know, we see, we can't deny that change is needed here. We have to change, and that means we have to free ourselves of the ties that bind us to the past, the tradition, to look at things in a new way.
This reminds me of something, and I hope I can bring it around, because I had a dream about hold the of our vision of the man. We must raise him up. Okay, let me see if I can address that in sort of a roundabout way. But I appreciate the concept there. We must raise him up. I have a little bit of a problem with that, but that's okay. What I was wanting to say about this dream and its relationship to the mummy that you just showed us. I had a dream that I was one of those mummies who somebody found buried in the Himalayas under 3,000 feet of snow. And I had a dream that I was a mummy who had been discovered by somebody who was up in those high mountains digging around on the snow. And what they did was they pulled me out and brought me to the East Coast of America, to this room that I am staying in now. And what happened when they got me here is that I started to thaw out. And I have been thawing out for the past couple of months here in this room. And I'm semi-awake now after this long period of being frozen and mummified in the ground. And I'm looking around, and it's like I've woken up in a completely new reality structure. And I am trying to figure out what's going on here. What do I need to do about it? And where in God's name did I come from? But the reason the card sort of struck this recollection of the dream is because what it feels like to me right now is my life is in a total state of chaos. And something new is reforming out of whatever happened to me while I was frozen in the ground. So in a sense, when the woman who asked about the ascension, what do I feel about ascension? I feel like we are in the thick of it. And it's happening to us from moment to moment. Okay. And, the minute I hear somebody say, what are your thoughts about ascension? I think, well, it isn't the rapture. Okay. The ascension process is experiencing, you're experiencing your own ascension process to the extent that your conscience, okay, is able to hold space, is able to hold space for that conscientiousness. Okay. That has to be sort of directed at us instead of out there. It has to be directed inward to us, like who are you here? Forget about what's going on out there and how corrupt and crazy it all is. What about you? And so what happens when you become accountable for all of it is that your consciousness expands, and from that space, okay, as it expands, you're moving on up. And yes, it's a tightrope walk, baby, because you always have to ride herd on yourself and make sure you're not stuck on the spiritual bypass, lying to yourself. Okay, because believe me when I tell you, everybody's doing that. And I catch myself in it all the time. As long as you're hip enough, okay, to really be able to call yourself on your own shit, okay, as you move through each day. That everything is an opportunity for you to see who you are and where you are along the path.
Yeah, I really agree. I really agree with that, because I know that that's something that I've been really focused on, and just looking like it's, it's not fun. We don't like it, but when I'm feeling like reactive, when I notice like, ooh, I just got dinged there, like I feel reactive, when I have that experience with somebody or a situation, I've really learned to, like, I think, if we bring it just right back to like love and presence, I bring it back to myself, and I kind of go, okay, I'm first of all space. I'm not going to act out of this place where I'm feeling reactive, because I know that something is coming up for me, and no matter how much I want to like depersonalize it and project it outside of myself and say, oh no, it's this person over here, it's them, that this person has actually come to like show me something about myself that I need to look at, that I need to alchemize. And so I've done a lot of that kind of like, that really, at least for me, when I've been in the Scorpio South Node work that we've all been doing, I had to really look at a lot of that, like, okay, well, why am I so activated? And what is that about? And why am I feeling compelled to like engage in this way? And it's like the more that I invited in like curiosity around feeling activated or feeling these feelings of like being dinged or whatever, and stop making it about the other person, thought, well, what is this person showing me right now? And sometimes for me it's just sort of like just those simple little cues. I have like little cues I use where it's like, if I feel like I'm dealing with something difficult, and then I feel reactive, I tell myself that. Like, and I think that's part of presence, is just like you're saying, telling yourself the truth. But I loved how you said that, Cal, about ascension happens in the moment. And that is so true. And what it's about is ascension happens in the moment that you choose to be conscious, that you choose to be present with whatever's happening. That's the moment of ascension. Because when we bypass, like you were saying, that's when we do get cut off. Yeah. That's when we stay stuck in the ignorance, because it's always an opportunity. Okay, I feel activated. Well, what's that about? And it's been really an interesting process for me, because it's not how I always used to deal with things in the past. I would just go with my activation, right? But the more that I did that, I was like, wow, I'm starting to really feel that I'm just able to allow, I'm able to just allow more. And it's like, okay, that's okay. That they feel that way, or that's okay if they don't like me, or that's okay if they don't want to be my friend, or, just allowing it and just saying kind of yes to everything. It's been really insightful for me and just helping me understand the ways that I actually like hold myself back,
Sure.
the ways that I keep myself stuck, the ways I keep myself wrapped up and bound like that mummy, because I'm resistant to change. And I think that that's what it's about for most people, is just humans by nature are so resistant to change. They want to control things, and we have no control other
Not
than that
over this one.
choice, right? That choice to, am I going to ascend in this moment or not? And I never thought of it that way. Like, we ascend in each moment. And thank you so much for bringing that in, because that's now going to be my new, my new
Yeah.
meditation. Like, am I going to ascend in this moment, or am I going to descend? And that's funny to me, because the descendant sign has been really coming in strongly for me. And
Mhm.
I don't have any proof about any of it. It's just kind of like an intuition, a download, but I feel like that's one thing that can really help us in navigating this stretch of the journey, is to look at that mirror reflection, because that is what the descendant sign is. It's the sign on the other side of the table. It's the polar opposite energy. And
Mhm.
so I've been noticing that, for example, even though I hold a lot of Aries energy, because I do have all that Libra in that first house,
Mhm.
still, as a Libra rising, Aries is my descendant sign.
Mhm.
And so I've also noticed, like, a lot of times I'll have challenges with Aries too, like, just in general, like my buttons will get pushed, and it makes me look at things in a different way now. Because I'm like, oh, wait, it's my mirror. It's an opportunity to have something mirrored back to me that I wasn't able to see before. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that, Cal, about descendant sign, but it's
Oh
something
yeah.
that's been coming in pretty strongly for me. And yes, I feel like Cal just slipped us a key too. That was a gem, Cal. It really was.
Oh, far out. No, ascension takes place from moment to moment. You always have the choice. It's funny. I really. It's so nice to be able to talk about this.
Yeah,
And
it is
I,
good.
I, I wish, I wish we could get together more often. But
Well,
I,
we can. I'm
I,
down to do that. I'm down to do that with you, and I'm sure people would love it. They love when you come on.
well,
Everybody's showing keys, Cal, because we've had a thing with keys coming in on downloads here. So everybody's like,
yeah,
yes, you gave a key.
yeah.
You dropped a key, so everybody's like putting that in their pocket right now.
No,
But
no,
I'm
it's
curious, what do you feel about the descendant sign? I want to I want to pick your brain on that, because I don't know
what
why it's just been coming in so
what
strong for me lately.
what you want to do is look at, so if Aries is on your seventh house cusp,
Yep.
which is the descendant, the ruling planet of Aries of Aries is Mars.
And my Mars is in Libra.
Okay, okay. So and Mars is weak in Libra.
Hmm.
It's not happy in Libra.
Right.
Okay, but at the same time, um, the aspects when you're trying to figure out what's up with you and your relationships with other people, look at the ruler of the descendant and then check out the aspects to it.
Okay.
All right, and the aspects to it will tell you how that piece is going. Basically, if you everything is completely individual, so this is a generic sort of answer to your question that isn't
Yeah.
based on any of the details that might underscore it. But if you've got Aries on the descendant, it means you need to be with a man who knows enough to leave you alone, to be who you are, and who doesn't need you to babysit or cook or wash the skid marks out of their undies or do any of that bullshit.
It's so true.
You
That's
need
so
to
true.
you
So
need to
true.
be you need to be with a partner who is completely okay with or without you.
Yep.
And they love you for your independence. See, I've got
And so isn't that interesting? Because it's sort of like that's the journey of the nodes, right?
big time.
Learning how to be autonomous even within relationship,
Oh, wow.
which goes back to that whole concept of freedom and love. Freedom is love. Freedom, freedom is what is the foundation of love, to have that freedom to be who you are, to have that autonomy. So it's real, the shard stains, I know. Did that come in last time? Did we have shard stains came in last time you were on? It's like a running theme for us. But Cal, it looks like everybody would like love if you made it a regular thing with me. And I would love to have it be a regular thing. And I actually think that
I'm okay with it.
all right.
I don't do anything but write all the time and think about astrology. And so for me, this is like getting together with a bunch of friends and having a chance to talk about the things that I really think about instead of what I ate for dinner. Half the people you talk to, all they can talk about is what they eat, and it's so funny because at the end of the week, I have to show up at a family reunion. This is going to be a big ascension test for me. I got to show up at a family reunion.
Just put those hands on the heart.
Well, there was a reason why I, hot-footed it out to Arizona 30 years ago. Okay, and I haven't seen any of these people in 30 years. I am the black sheep of the family and the commonly agreed upon nut job. Okay, and I got to walk back into a room full of overeducated men and women who don't think very much of me and who disagree with absolutely everything that I'm about. So for me, this is going to be a very interesting experience because the only way to function for me in a situation like that is to just shut up. Okay. And
well, now, Cal, you can practice ascending in every.
That's right. I've already got it figured out, and I hope I can do it.
I think you can. I have faith in you, Cal. I know this is cracking me up.
Yeah. No, what I have to do, what I do in that kind of situation is just be quiet and listen. Okay. And while you're listening, find one thing in the other person that you can love about them. Even if it's the fluff on their Angora sweater or the color of their eyes or the fact that they like saltines too. Okay. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but
connecting point.
Yeah.
It happens on the microcosm level, it's like, I really think that that's like such a way to go forward that, is really undervalued
Oh no, I'm coming from love. And that's what they say to older women. Older women, I have friends that are still out shopping for a boyfriend, and fuck, I'm 75. I could care less if I have another boyfriend. I have a lot of male friends, but the last thing I want right now is a boyfriend because talk about new frontiers. There's this whole big secret to life that happens to older women that nobody ever tells us about because everybody's so busy telling you have to sand off your wrinkles and look like Britney Spears. And actually what happens when you get on the other side of that fence is like, holy shit, this is freaking great, And I hope I live long enough to tell everybody how it feels to go there. Okay. But
maybe you will, Cal. Maybe sooner than you think.
I want to live to be 130. That's my aim right now.
Really? You do?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I like it.
I'm looking forward to it.
You know what my goal is? I want to be like the town, like eccentric. I think
you already are. I think you already are.
I want to be like the town eccentric that all the kids talk about, that weird lady that lives over there. I don't know why. I just like the mystique of it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Good.
Inez says, what about a butler, Cal? Instead of a boyfriend?
Butler. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. It would be okay with me if they showed up a couple of times a week and just, we had a nice time and they went away. But
hey, that's owning your truth, man.
Yeah. No, I don't see any point. I was never much good. I was real good at having babies, and my kids are all stellar human beings. And I've had 4 major relationships that were all very interesting, but never had much luck in the realm of being a good relationship girl, because I don't know, the last relationship I had though was great, and it was with a married man. I spent 8 years being the mistress of a married man, and it was the best relationship I ever had in my life. Because actually, you know what? That guy loved me, and I got to have the experience of being loved for the first time. It's like the love that I never got from Daddy. I finally got it from this guy, and the whole relationship was like, wow, this isn't right. You know what I mean? He's married, all that bullshit. Fuck it. You know what? If I hadn't gone for that, I would have missed that experience, and it filled me up and took care of me. It's like I can turn around and say to anybody, yeah, I know what it feels like to be loved. And anyhow, this is off the point and whatever. I get the feeling your hands are green. You're starting to look like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Elphaba is my hero. Have you ever actually read Wicked by Gregory Maguire? The book, not seen the Broadway.
No.
The Broadway play. Oh, the book is brilliant. You would love it, Cal. First of all, I've always loved Elphaba. I loved Elphaba since I was a little girl. The first time I saw The Wizard of Oz, I absolutely loved the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
And I loved her because she made everything interesting. Like, things got exciting when she came around. I didn't really find myself gravitating toward Dorothy, and I was never drawn to Glinda. Because I didn't trust Glinda. I just felt like she was one of those spiritual bypassers. Like, she was just too sweet. It was like saccharine sweet. I didn't trust her. And I just always I really liked, the Wicked Witch of the West. And I thought she was justified. It's like, hey, man, you stole her sister's shoes. That's her sister's heirloom. It's her. She should have the shoes, not Dorothy. And who put them on there? But the good witch put them on Dorothy's feet. Quite a setup there. But what's interesting is the book by Gregory Maguire is brilliant, because he brings up so many socio-political issues in the book about the way we judge people according to how they look. And in the book, Elphaba was like a revolutionary. It's just the coolest book. And he painted Glinda to be like the sorority girl. And it's brilliant. You should check it out. But
what's the name of the book?
It's called Wicked by Gregory Maguire, and it's a brilliant, brilliant book. But yes, I love having the green, and I like the color. I just like the fantasy. I like the.
No, but do you know that your skin is green?
I do.
Oh, you can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. It's
You
just
see,
fun. I like it. I like it. It's
I-
just it's a little like a little mystical, a little unusual, and it makes me think of Kermit the Frog. And it's not easy being
yeah,
great.
actually, it would make a nice. It would actually make a nice painting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Toulouse-Lautrec or something like that. You should have a little glass of absinthe.
The green fairy. Now we're getting magical up in here.
Yeah.
I thought I would pull like just to kind of close things out because I know it's in middle of the week and um, I know it's late. It's late for you, but
Oh, yeah.
I do want to get like a
I,
final
I,
overarching theme card. I'd like you to get one, and
okay.
I'll get one. And then what I would like is the people who are here in the comments. I'd like you to just share like just like a sentence about your perspective of what the card means so we can all kind of give like a little collective read together. I think it would be kind of cool just to have your input come in and then I'll close off with letting Cal let you know where you can find her offerings because you got some new stuff going on. But let's get a overarching theme card. Just one, not a bunch, just one card for the collective. I'm working with the Halloween Oracle here. I really like this Oracle. It's really pretty. And it feels fitting since we just moved out of the Scorpio South Node into the Libra South Node. So I thought, let's just bring a little piece of wisdom from that Scorpio South Node forward for us. What's rising up out of the past as we head in towards the future and taking that initiative with the magician energy.
I got her.
Oh my gosh, we brought her in with the mummy.
What the hell? Okay, well, what's this? This is
Eight of Swords.
We don't know what's going on.
We do know what's going on though, because she's not really trapped. It's victim consciousness with the Eight of Swords. She can actually see her blindfold is not on tightly. She can look underneath it. And her arms are not wrapped tightly either. She's not trapped. She tells herself she is. She's apathetic. She's not willing to do the work. She's lazy. She wants to blame. She wants to point fingers. That's what I see when I look at the Eight of Swords. I think of a false narrative. I think of a story that's been told about how we're trapped and there's nothing we can do about it. Woe is me. And that this is exactly what we need to shake off. You know, we need to take off the blindfold. We need to stop thinking that we're bound to something that we're ready to be free from, and that we have to take the steps to secure that freedom. That's what I think.
Hang on a sec. Keep talking.
Okay, I'm gonna. Oh, okay. Ooh, look what I got. Look what I got.
What you get?
I got Dawn.
Oh, I like that. Oh,
the light after the darkness. The light after the darkness, Cal.
That's awesome.
And look, it's the owl medicine. And I love this because owl is able to see within the dark. The owl is a nocturnal creature and is able to see what is normally shrouded. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like mirroring. It's mirroring off of your energy because you have the Eight of Swords where the blindfold's on. But owl can see in the dark. And Owl's here to say, look, you know, owl is also a totem about magic, alchemy, transmutation. So they say when owl is around, magic is afoot. But then there's also this other piece I have to bring in because I have Comanche ancestry. And in some native indigenous tribes, the owl is considered bad juju. It's considered a taboo, okay, a bad omen. And in fact, not even to be spoken of because it can invoke the spirit of that totem. And it's like that within the Comanche. I've been learning a lot. I've been doing a lot of research. I've been wanting to know more about those roots. And it's been very, very interesting. There's a really good book about that that's called What is Between Eight of Swords and L? Whatever caught Cal's attention. Oh, yeah. What caught your attention? You got up to show something.
Oh, I went to get, this is the best tarot book on the planet.
Which book is that?
Tarot for Relationships.
Ooh, who's that by?
It's by Jocelyn Almond and Keith Seddon. I have over 100 tarot books that I've used over the years. This is the one that I use all the time because it has the meaning of upright and reversed for just ordinary situations, but also it has a separate piece that is just upright and reversed for relationships.
Very cool.
I was curious to see what it had to say about the Eight of Swords, and as I was sort of checking it out, I realized that what you were talking about was what it means, and that really it's about being in the dark. You know, essentially the combination of the two cards is being in the dark, but the owl shows up to help us see in the dark.
Yes, and what's interesting is in the Comanche tribe, much like many other native tribes in the United States, owl is still considered to be bad juju, except for one type of owl. The great horned owl. So,
oh yeah.
And look at this great horned owl in this owl deck. It's the magician.
Oh.
It's the magician. Okay.
Oh, so
and the reason why they worked with great horned owl is they viewed it as a protector. And the Comanche were known to go on the attack at night. In fact, they were very feared right around the time of the full moon, because that's often when they would go out to settle scores. And what they would do is they would take the feathers of the great horned owl and they would put it on their arms and on their shields for protection. And so it makes me think of the other meaning of owl in native indigenous cultures, which is deceiver. Okay. And in fact, they call the feathers deceiver feathers, but they're viewed as protection with the great horned owl. So I think that's just an interesting parallel there. But so funny that great horned owl. So it's a key because it's the magician. There's that Aries energy, right?
Sure,
so in order to be able to rise up into that dawn, into this light after the darkness, we have to take off the blindfold. We have to set ourselves free by being willing to see the truth and accepting that nobody is holding us back. We alone have the power to set ourselves free and chart our course for the future. That's what I feel. It speaks to me, but I would love to hear what other people have to say. Let's see.
But can I say one thing?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, okay. I see. Yes, it's beautiful. Goes back to his tree at dawn. I was thinking of something while you were talking. That's beautiful, Elisa, by the way. Just the image of it. I was thinking of something while you were talking that that comes out of the Kogi, from the Kogi mamas. The Kogi mamas are the high priests of the Mayan tribes. And their whole story is unbelievable. If you've ever seen the BBC production From the Heart of the World, see if you can find it. I think it's still on YouTube. But the Kogi mamas are like these super conscious beings who live at the top of the mountains in Santa Marta, South America. And they spend, the Kogi mamas are known before birth. Okay. So in other words, when the spirit of a mama comes in, they know who it is beforehand, but they are taken from their mothers at birth and they are raised in complete and total darkness for the first 9 years of their life.
Mm.
And when they come out, these people are unbelievable. Okay, it's too much to get into right now, but what the Kogis, what the mamas say is the only way that you can really learn to see is in total darkness, which fits with this whole business of the owl. And yeah, I see it. I see it. Is that the gypsy moth?
Yeah, it says death. Yeah, I was curious about the bottom of the deck energy because it's kind of like the base of the matter.
Always, yeah.
And it's really interesting, right? Because we have like the cycle of life, because here we have dawn, the light after the darkness. And this is like so Scorpio, right? Look at the skull with the moth. And it says death, the eternal cycle begins here.
Yeah.
I love it.
We're in the thick of it right now. I've been writing the stuff I have to do for the Sedona Journal. I have to write it 2 months ahead of publication. So since, I don't know, since January, I've been doing this stuff for them. And I'm working on a piece now that isn't going to get published until October. But what these articles require me to do is to look into the future and see where we are relative to that.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, man, this is just the beginning of the shit hitting the fan, and it is going to be out of control between now and, I would say, actually Guy Fawkes Day, which is November 5th. Between now and November 5th, which is the day that Saturn turns direct. All right. And it's already started to dribble over the top of the dam. Okay. Truly seeing is through the darkness. Yes, that's Venus Rising Perfume Oil. Is that your name? Venus, let me refer to you as Venus.
It's Danielle. It's my friend Danielle.
Oh, okay.
My dear sister Danielle.
Well, Danielle, yes, it's true. And that's why when I meditate, I actually put a blindfold on. Because the blacker it is, the deeper I go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're pollinators. Well, good for them.
So that's a little clue. That's a little seeding the future. I love everybody sharing their thoughts. I love everybody bringing their contributions. It's like we're all collectively giving
the alpha and the omega. The alpha and the omega is where we're at right now, right between those two things. So anybody it's almost sheer arrogance to pontificate or make predictions about what's going to happen. And it's funny because there is an asteroid chaos. Chaos is actually an asteroid. So you can pop it into a chart and see where the chaos is in a person's life. Right now, it's sitting right smack on my ascendant. So the realm of possibilities just popped open for me in a big way. And I don't know, I feel like that song by Warren Zevon, Nighttime in the Switching Yard. Have you ever heard that song?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know where I'm going or what's happening, but it's all getting rearranged right now. And I'm just waiting. It's basically chaos to me is 52 pickup. You know, we can toss all the cards up in the air and see how they fall, but I don't know what's going on right now. And I'm wide open. That's the nice thing about chaos.
I mean, that's the best way to be, right? I mean, because That is choosing. That is choosing love. It's choosing that wide-eyed, like enthusiastic, spirited, love of adventure and possibility instead of like contractive fear. It's that fool.
Yeah.
The fool is smelling the flower and like looking up at the heavens. And yeah, he's got a little dog nipping at his heels, which recently it made me think of like Sirius, the dog star, like
Yes.
Sirius is still back there, like, remember your
Woo!
spiritual light with, don't forget this piece.
Oh,
Um,
the dog star is such a big deal right now because we're in the middle of the friggin' dog days.
yeah.
Or you wonder why it's so hot. You wonder why it's so hot. Like
The
Sirius,
amplification of that energy. It's like,
well, Sirius is vibrating at about 27,000 megawatts of solar energy, and and our sun is vibrating at about 10,000. Okay, of the same thing. During the summer months, our sun and Sirius travel together. So when the sun is in Cancer, okay, which goes between whatever, it goes between the summer solstice and this year it's the 23rd of July. But during that time, our sun and Sirius are conjunct. So that means there's twice as much light and twice as much heat beaming down on us from the center of the universe. And the reason, I'm sitting here with a fan on in a room that's could use a little AC, okay, or why we've been sort of bogged down with the heat and the crazy weather is because that's why. The two brightest stars in the sky are generating twice as much heat and twice as much light, and it's the light that we need to focus on.
mhm.
Okay, because it's filled with light is information.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all fools in the beginning. Do you know this gal, Age of Lily?
Angela, yes. I know
Oh, oh,
Angela well.
oh,
Angela's
okay,
rad.
yeah. Yes, we
Yeah,
are
I
all
mean,
fools.
I think that that's the seed of how, the seed is in the beginning, right? I mean, that gives us a clue that it's all about how we start. We should start with that enthusiasm, of the fool that is teachable, that doesn't have the answers, that's wide-eyed and full of wonder and isn't sitting there thinking about what could go wrong, but instead like, what could happen? What
Yeah,
could go right? And the
yeah,
other thing about the fool is travels light. It's not dragging a bunch of baggage behind him. He's got one little knapsack, man.
yeah,
And
and
as
they're
long as
not.
we don't forget the dog star, as long as we don't forget our focus on our spiritual sun, we'll be all good,
Well,
Then we can get that sun that's the fulfillment, the happiness, the joy in life, right?
that's what I'm shooting for. I feel pretty good.
I mean, that's what I want to shoot for.
I'm very happy right now in a state of I'm growing, and for some reason or other I feel very childlike.
I
You
think it's a
know,
beautiful place to be. I love that, like that childlike sense of wonder. I mean, for me, I'm initiated onto the third road. It's a fairy tradition, and it's like a central focus on that particular path. It's all about really looking at everything like with a sense of wonder. And
oh,
I,
this is what's been going on with me. Like when I clean the shower. Okay, you know that piece when you get out of the shower and you want to I use this little squeegee to go down and just make sure that the tile is all just spick and span. And and when I was, up until lately, I would just try to rush through this because I thought it was so important that I had other things to do, and this was just this mindless task that was a waste of my time. Now I do it, and instead of going to that place of impatience, I I am amazed at the connection between my brain and and my hand as it moves. And it's weird. It's like I'm experiencing my body for the first time from the inside out, and it's not just mentally being present, but it's being 100% present. And the other day, something happened that was I totally slipped out of time for a few seconds in the process of having my heart and my head and my hands all in the same place.
Yes. It's a meditation in motion.
It was, and now I look forward to it. Now I take 2 showers a day just so I can clean the shower.
I love a channeled song. So Danielle brought in something Cal said a few minutes ago, had me thinking of Black Water by Doobie Brothers. So Doobie Brothers, listen to Black Water. There might be a message there for the collective, because I love bringing in like channeled songs. So
I don't even know what it is, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll post it on the community board here at Broad Coven too, so people can check it out, because I bring in songs all the time. Sometimes they come in and it's really trippy when a song comes in, you go and you read the lyrics and you're like, oh my gosh, there's such a message there. So
I got my favorites. Okay. That's beautiful. Oh, I clear chords in the shower daily and day.
Yeah. I mean, you can clear out, you know what, it's really interesting, that piece you brought in. I worked with somebody once, they helped guide me a bit on my healing journey, and they always said you can always tell what's going on in your life, like where you're at, like kind of like your spiritual barometer, your emotional barometer, your mental barometer, by like what's going on in your house. And then a good way, like a cathartic way to like deal with that, is to like actually set to work with presence, writing what's off in the house, So if you got like a bunch of junk shoved in your closet, you can start to hold space through like that meditative awareness, just being really present and like taking the boxes out, sorting through the boxes. It's like, it's a whole, meditation,
Sure,
all meditation.
Yeah, I know the woman who was she's dead now, but the woman who was the disseminator of the blue school teachings, which are the most ancient form of the Hasidic, the most ancient form of the female Hasidic traditions. Before, when people went to her, to be an apprentice or a disciple, they spent the first 3 months of their time with her cleaning house.
It's that song. I love that song.
Yeah.
I love that song. That I when I think back to my childhood, I think I was really little when that song came out, but I remember that song so much from my childhood.
Oh, Black Water, keep up. Yeah, I think I remember it. I never got completely into the Doobie Brothers. I didn't have time to listen to them. I was bartending at the time, and they were on all the time, so I didn't really listen to them.
Well, I think we need to listen to that one tonight. You know what I'm thinking, Cal? And a good time to meet again might be the blue moon.
Yeah,
once in a blue moon.
Well, let's do it.
Let's explore it. We'll look at the date, see if it links up. But if you're down, it looks like people would love to have regular drop-ins, and I love this because everybody can kind of like come in and share their thoughts, and like you were saying, it's like, we all sit, we kind of like have a conversation amongst friends, and that's kind of like, that's my whole goal here is I want this to be like, that's why it's called Broad Coven. It's like broad perspective, everyone from all different walks of life, like everybody's welcome here. That's one of the things I really enjoy is like sometimes we get like, we get readings going and we got like some people that are, they're saying a shay, in the comments. And then we got other people that are like, amen, praise Jesus, and it's like so many people, we all have different beliefs. And like normally that can be like a combative thing, but we're learning together like how to create these spaces. Ooh, Ted just gave his 2 cents. Ted, the German Shepherd, just went, woo.
Yeah,
So
I know my dog's around here somewhere. I think she just went downstairs. I'm living in a house where the woman that I'm staying with has this most amazing, beautiful dog.
Oh.
Anyhow, she just disappeared. Yeah, God bless the dogs.
Yeah, that I got Ted to nip at my heels as I make my way forward as the fool. So I welcome. Ted kind of looks like Anubis too, so he reminds me of that like dog star connection. He's
Yeah.
German Shepherd with Belgian Malinois, so
Oh, wow, nice
he's
combo.
really got that kind of look to him. But yeah, we'll explore it as a possibility. We'll talk more, but let's definitely let's do it. It's fun, and it's good.
Yeah.
And you have so much to share, and I think that um, you're at that stage. You're at that stage where it's like you got to share, the wealth of your knowledge. I know you're always like, well, I don't know. You actually do have access to a lot of wisdom that I think, opens up people's perspective. And it's, what you bring forward is a gift. So I just really appreciate you even being willing to like, I know it's not your usual deal, but I love that you're willing to do it, and that you come on and you share what you share. So I appreciate
I like you.
you, Cal.
I like you. That's why I do it.
I thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too, hon.
So please tell everybody in the meantime, until our next soiree, could you tell everybody about what you got going on with coffee?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so people can, if they're interested in, learning more about astrology from you and experiencing what I think are just like the best horoscopes around, because you do a weekly. Why don't you share with people where they can find you and what you got going on with that?
I did this thing. I've been writing an astrological column for a bunch of newspapers since, I don't know, 1970. Okay, so I don't know how long that is, about 50 years. And it all started out, I don't know, in basic rags in Vermont, and I wrote for, Glamour magazine and the Associated Press for a period of time, and a number of just different newspapers that are scattered all over the place. So I got tired of doing that because it's crazy doing sign by sign horoscope columns. As far as I'm concerned, it's all bullshit. Okay. And basically what you're doing is you're lying to people because there's no way you can mass predict from, everybody that's born under a certain sign. So about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I decided to just write articles about astrology. And I just would put that up on my Facebook page once a week and just give it away. Anybody that went to my Facebook page could read the articles. And eventually what happened is I brought the horoscopes back because there were a bunch of people that wanted that. They didn't want to listen to me talk about the deep end of the astrological pool.
Because they hit, Cal, because they hit. You say that they don't, but they do.
No, well, see, the other thing, when you do that kind of thing for 50 years, boy, does it get old. I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but towards the end, when I was still having to dream it all up before I rebooted it, okay, how I would write those columns, I would say anybody could do this. All I would do is smoke a joint and make it up.
You channeled it.
Okay, so yeah, you could look at it that way.
You channeled it. I mean, the reality is, the reason why people want it, Cal, is because it always hits. And
Right.
if you know how to look at the scopes and you don't like over personalize it, and if you look at it more as themes, and if you understand your placements, it's very insightful actually, you know,
Well,
and you do bring a lot forward and people do love them and they love them for a reason because they hit, you know,
okay.
so there's something to it, even though
Well, my youngest daughter, my kids are great. Okay. My youngest daughter has been bugging me for the past 3-4 years. She says, Mom, you got to start charging for this. So what she did was she went ahead and she got me on this website where I can post the stuff that I'm giving away for free on this website, and anybody that goes to the website can read my weekly column and the stuff that I have to say about astrology. I said I don't want to charge people a lot. I want homeless people to be able to look at this. So let's charge everybody $1 a month. Okay. So anyhow, now on this Garrison, Kofi.com, whatever it is, I have this thing. I have this thing that I'm posting usually either on a Friday or a Saturday every week that goes down the list of all the stuff that's going on astrologically and then throws in the 12 sign deal. And it's so far it's going pretty well. I probably should have started doing it a long time ago.
I will say that I've signed up for it and it's awesome and it's totally worth it. And if you want to learn more about astrology like me, because I'm just a little baby, I am the fool on the astrological journey. I'm just really diving into it and starting to learn. And I feel very fortunate to be able to like sit with you and talk with you and receive
Yeah.
like all your wisdom and learn from you. I really value it and I consider you a mentor in that regard. But I love signing up for the coffee because I love the horoscopes too. They're rad.
Oh,
But the write-ups are awesome and you learn so much about, you deal a lot differently with astrology. Like I noticed that you go a lot into asteroids and I don't see a lot of that in astrology. So I love that you bring in pieces that to me, they feel like they really hit, you know, so strongly and really tap into something just like a deeper undercurrent that I don't see very often.
yeah.
You look at all these aspects that I never hear about, like when I read other, you know, astrology columns. So if anybody is wanting to learn more about astrology, I would say just as
Yeah.
a perspective of somebody who's also learning, I'll give you I'll put the link, I'll pin it in the comments. I'll make sure to do that. So come back to the live for the replay. You can look down in the comments. I'll pin down where to find Cal, but it's on Coffee. It's like ko-fi.com, and she's under Cal Garrison. Okay, but I mean,
Thank you for the plug. That's
yeah,
nice of you. Thank you.
you're like here donating. Like you've been, for somebody who doesn't do this normally, you've just spent 3 hours here talking with all of us and sharing your knowledge. So it's the least I could do, and I just really appreciate you. And I also think that you can be very helpful for a lot of people in moving through this next leg of the journey, because I really feel like the more that people really understand themselves and also understand their own rhythms, understanding that, oh, wait a minute, my natal chart is not like a static thing. Like, just like the rest of the cosmos, it's always moving and changing, evolving, and I'm growing with it. The more that you can like learn about yourself through what's really like your inner map of your, you know, your own cosmology, I feel like the better off you're going to be, and the more you're going to be able to like ascend in each moment. Let's say
That's right. That's right. Ascend in each moment. I think
ascend in each moment, and also understand others as well, and those that you are having challenges with. I know that as I've gotten more into it, it's helped me understand, like, oh, okay, you know, when you really get to know somebody and they share with you like more about their chart and you're kind of like learning more about each other, then you get certain things. You're like, oh, that's why, you know, we have this thing between us. And then it also helps you kind of like work through things. So I've definitely been like, just in general, encouraging people lately to just get to know your chart, get to know your chart. So
Well,
I
it's
think
like,
you're a very valuable resource, you know.
oh, thank you. Well, I feel the same way about you. But isn't it interesting that right now, when all of this sort of like kicked in as an idea, is that both you and I had our progressed suns at the same degree of
I
Sagittarius?
know. I know. I love that we're both in the Sag energy. Let me just say, I I love my son being in Sag instead of Libra.
Oh, it certainly makes a difference. Believe me, because I'm a friggin' Virgo. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And to get out of that box, it's like been so liberating.
I also really love my moon, my Venus, my Mercury, my Mars, and my rising now being in Scorpio.
Oh yeah, yep. Oh, my Venus. Ooh, oh, never mind. We here I am. My God, I'm getting undressed in front of everybody. So this is my bedroom. Okay, this is my bedroom. I don't know where my friend Zosh is. She's around here somewhere, I think, unless she goes out tango dancing a couple of nights a week. So I don't even know if she's home yet. But anyhow, this is the bedroom, and I get the front bedroom in this big old Victorian house that is unbelievable. And I have been hiding out here for the past 3 months with no interruptions.
How wonderful.
And am free to just write. It's kind of like being on sabbatical.
Yeah, it's like a writer's retreat. That's so awesome. I'm working on writing something right now myself, actually. Writing a screenplay, like really going outside of my comfort zone. But
oh, I've never done that. I was thinking about doing it.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
I was talking with somebody this weekend. I forget who it was. But we said, wouldn't it be interesting to do a movie of a bunch of people having a conversation with their dead parents
about that's interesting.
About what really happened. Okay, like what was up with the fact that you never told us that Dad was gay? Okay, or I think it would be interesting to do a movie like that. But anyhow, we're getting off the subject.
I think this is the takeaway message from tonight, really. Always evolving, ascend in each moment.
Yeah. Yeah, moment to moment.
Moment to moment.
It isn't something that's going to happen, you know, like this big supernova goes off and all of a sudden we all wake up. It's happening here in the third dimension. The one thing that is axiomatic, or one of the things that is axiomatic, is the law of time.
Yeah.
And also you only learn through experience. So it's time and experience and repetition. And the more you see it, the more you figure out what to do about it, I think.
Absolutely.
But now I'm talking ragtime, spiritual ragtime. So maybe we should just wrap it up.
We will. We're going to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you to everybody who dropped in and joined us tonight and brought your voices in and shared your thoughts. Ted just shook his head. Yes, he's thanking you too. Y'all brought in a lot of valuable pieces. And to all of you who catch the replay, welcome too. You're part of bringing this energy in for the collective as well. So thank you to all of you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It actually allows me to get these messages out to more people. And plus, you'll be able to stay in touch with when Cal drops in again. And maybe we'll do once in a blue moon. That could be a fun one to do. We could have We could have an interesting talk around the supermoon energy we got, these 4 in a row. Lots of thanks coming in for you, Cal. Thank you, Cal. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you guys.
yeah.
Thanks for being willing to put up with me.
Oh, put up with you. It's good.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll be back again another time. And oh, Inez is sending you a virtual hug. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And we'll be back again. We'll be back again with more of this kind of talk. So thank you for being part of it. You are appreciated. And we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.